Welcome to the General Awareness Practices webinar hosted by Notia Point. My name is Nathan Riley and I will be hosting this webinar. I'll show my face for a moment, introduce myself. So hopefully everyone can see me. And once again, my name is Nathan Riley and I'm the founder of Notia Point. And let's take a look at what we do. First and foremost, we are partnered with InfoSec. InfoSec is a company that provides trainings, including security awareness training opportunities for businesses. And we work together to provide cybersecurity to the world, to businesses, to individuals trying to learn more about cybersecurity or people trying to build cybersecurity. Once again, my name is Nathan Riley, and I come from a background developing different types of cybersecurity technologies. I've done forensics. I've been in the cybersecurity space for over 10 years. And the last company I worked for before building Notia Point was Logarithm. And I worked with customers such as NASA, Unisys, the United States Air Force, Cargill. That was just a list of some of the types of customers that I've worked with. I've worked with over 200 different types of businesses around the world, different countries, around Asia, Australia, Europe. I have a lot of experience over the past decade in cybersecurity. It's all I do. So the first thing I'd like to talk about in this webinar, since this is a webinar about security awareness, is the mind of a hacker. Why? Because we wouldn't need cybersecurity or security awareness if it wasn't for hackers, people who create data breaches. So the mind of a hacker, hackers aren't necessarily who we might think they are. Oftentimes in the media and the news, you'll hear about organizations like Anonymous, like this Guy Fawkes mask here on the slide, where we think of them as these nefarious, dark individuals who lurk in the darkness and hang out in dark places and talk about where their next attack's going to be and ultra technical, which is not necessarily true. As a matter of fact, serious hackers mostly care about results, and the path to least resistance usually lends to the greatest return on investment for time, which means that creating really advanced attacks does not generally create much of a return, especially if someone spends a month building some crazy efficient cyber breach just to hope that they can get some information from one company. Well, they just basically wasted a month of their life. So as a result, over 90% of breaches begin with phishing. You may have heard of phishing or seen strange, suspicious emails that claim to be from Amazon or PayPal or some other company that you have an account with, try to get your credentials. So some hackers have goals to defame, shut down, or destroy. Sure, they exist. But by the vast majority, most people who might call themselves hackers, or who we might consider to be hackers, simply just want to make easy money. As a matter of fact, most spam comes from the same individuals around the world who just continuously send out the majority of the internet spam to try to see how much money they can make. Some even hack just for fun, including bright kids. You'll get some curious high schooler or middle schooler who discovered fancy things on the internet. They're like, oh, I can get credentials to log into this account that gives me free music because I'm a kid without a credit card and I can do things without a credit card by stealing it. But someone who's 12 might not necessarily think about it that way. They just look at it as, oh, free stuff if I get this random information. They don't necessarily think so far as the fact that they're taking someone's information. So that's the reality of what is a hacker really. Now, for this webinar, you've seen our ads, and you've seen our trailer for this video on our website. We're going to build a phishing attack, and I actually built a phishing attack for this webinar. I'm going to show you how a phishing attack is built so you can see just how easy it is to get breached and why phishing is so dangerous. So let's go ahead and take a look at what I put together here. So I'm just going to pull up an email that I used, that I created, that I might consider sending to a bunch of users if I was an attacker. Let's say that I wanted to get people's PayPal accounts, because if I'm a hacker, if I'm someone who's going to try to phish you or your company or someone in your vicinity, I just want to get some PayPal accounts, see if I can use that to get some money, maybe sell those accounts. All I care about is money at the end of the day, and I really don't want to put a whole lot of effort into that. So let me show you just how quick and easy it is to create a phishing attack, and why is it that 90% of all breaches start with a phishing attack, and why they're so successful. So just to make this less confusing, I did make this say PrayPal instead of PayPal, since I also don't want to take any of PayPal's branding. But imagine getting an email like this, and your email inbox says, immediate attention needed on your PayPal account. You might look at that and decide that, oh no, I should probably log into my account and try to make sure everything's okay, because it says it's an emergency. Now, let me talk about the internet a little bit, because when you click on the email, it brings you over to a connection on the internet. When we go to something like PayPal.com, when I created this phishing attack, I'm like, all right, what's an easy way to get these credentials? Before I even created the email, I had to think about, what is it that I want to steal? What is it that it's going to be a small amount of effort for me to try to get a bunch of login credentials so I can steal financial information or get whatever I'm looking for. And to be clear, I could also pick on other websites like Wells Fargo over here before I really get into showing you how you create a landing page, or at least how easy it is to fake a landing page. I want everyone to know that it's not a matter of PayPal being less secure than someone else. You know, PayPal is not less secure than Wells Fargo. They're not less secure than Chase Bank or some other website. I can go to chase.com for Chase Bank. So maybe I want some bank information from Chase. Maybe I want some bank information from Wells Fargo. But in the example that we're working with right now, I used PayPal. So if it is PayPal that I want to steal credentials for, the first thing to note is what's called a URL. So for those of you who are not tech savvy and don't know technical terms, URL is basically the https://www.paypal.com information that you type in that lets you know that you're at the website that you hope you're at. It's just the address for the website you're trying to go to. So you type in URL for the website you want to go to, and if I just want to create a fake version of PayPal, first notice that if I just right-click and hit inspect on anything on this page, I get code. You get the code for the website, or at least the design code for this website landing page, which means that I can use this code. And for the most part, even though the website itself is secure, and someone who knows to go up and look to make sure that they're actually at paypal.com, as long as I'm looking and seeing the URL that I'm at www.paypal.com, then I can assume that I'm at the right website and someone hasn't tampered with the website, most likely. So if I'm going to create my own version of this, I just want the code for the website so that I can make my own version to see if I can fool some people into giving me their passwords. So I can just save this code, and notice if I go to save, gives me the option to just save the HTML code. And I'll just save this to my desktop. So now I have this download that basically just gave me the code for the website. And once again, this is not specific to PayPal. This would work on any old website that you're trying to get information for, which is why security has to do with more than what a website looks like, whether or not you can make a website look like something else. That's not a security risk, because people can make fake websites all the time. That's why we have URLs and things like looking at www.paypal.com to make sure that we are at the right website. So I'm going to go ahead and go to that file that I just retrieved. I go to my desktop files. I'm going to give you an idea. Even without doing any software engineering or any Code Ninja efforts, I already have what looks like PayPal's website. It looks exactly like PayPal's website because all I did was save the code, and now I have my own little website that I can modify. And this isn't hosted online, and I'm not going to host this online, but if I were an attacker, I would make this accessible to the World Wide Web so that my email sends people to my version of PayPal. And because it's not my goal to completely pick on PayPal, I did make my own version, which, as I showed you in the email, I called PrayPal, so that we know the difference between the hacked page and the real PayPal, so that it's very, very obvious as I'm going through this demo. Because as you can see, if I show you this website side by side to PayPal's real website, you can see that they look the same. They look identical. Let's be honest. And so if you're not looking at, once again, where it says www.paypal.com, well, whatever we have up here, it might be a series of jumble, some gibberish, but you're not going to have the proper website in this URL up here, which is why I mentioned the URL multiple times. Pay attention to that sort of thing. And paying attention to the URL is where you avoid getting hacked. And people who just come to the website, and you'd be shocked at how many people don't look at the URL. They just go to a website, they're like, oh yeah, this looks like Amazon. This looks like Wells Fargo. This looks like Chase. I'm just going to log in because it makes sense. We're human beings. We generally operate in an intuitive manner, and if something looks about right, then human beings generally just sit there and say, yeah, this makes sense. So that's why, to make this less confusing and more obvious, let me introduce you to my version of PayPal for our example of a phishing attack here. So bear with me while I pull that up. I created this experiment. So, as I told you, is a website. Websites are made of code. You can look at the code. You can save the code. Here's some code. This is the code that I saved. And if I want to change certain aspects of the code, someone who knows what they're doing can sit here and search for certain things that they want. I inserted something random in this code that says I see you. See if it finds it. Yeah, so if you look at where my mouse is circling in the middle of all of this chaos, someone who's semi-technical can generally figure out how this works, which is why someone who's trying to develop a phishing attack doesn't need to be that technical. They just need to be determined enough to want to steal some information, which once again you is involved. So if you want some easy cash, then sometimes stealing it online is easier than getting customers, which go figure that there's your motivation. Because people say, well, what motivates people to do this stuff? Why would people try to steal all of my information, these horrible people? Well, they want money. Everyone wants money, right? It's why we work. It's why we try to get promotions. It's just some of us are a little more ethical than others. So let me pull up my experiment to show you what all that code looks like on the website. Once again, notice the URL is not paypal.com. Someone who's a really good phisher might try to create a URL that says something like paypal.login.com if they have a website that they can sneak PayPal into so that it somewhat looks like the PayPal website. And if you're unsure, you can always just go to the actual PayPal website instead of following a strange link. Following strange links doesn't help anyone. Following strange links brings us to PayPal. And they want to see your credentials. Let me get rid of this code over here on the side. So because I tampered with this, just to give you an idea of what you can do to a web page and you're trying to get people's information, like I changed the sign up button. What to do when you've been phished is what it brings us to. And I have all these little pictures that say, you've been phished. So that would make it pretty obvious if someone were to try to click on sign up and someone did that. But a real phishing attack is going to try their best to make it not obvious at all that you are on a fake landing page, a fake login page. They want you to be convinced 100% that you are about to log into your PayPal account. So to make matters even scarier, we have our little PayPal logo up here. And, you know, I'm going to get some stuff out of the way, all these windows. I'm just log in. If you've been looking at the screen, you can see that instead of it saying enter in username, it says I'm stealing your info because it's what I put in the code. So I'm just going to say Nathan. So let me type Nathan email at something.com. I'm just going to put in some arbitrary information that I don't care about. And for password, and I'm assuming there's probably not an actual something.com with a Nathan email at there. So password, I'm just going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8. Most passwords want it to be about 8 figures or characters. And this is what makes phishing attacks scary. Maybe you didn't pay attention to the URL and you did just log in and you clicked on login right here. Something went wrong on our end. And now, notice there's a PayPal logo down here, but look at the URL now. The URL is now officially at paypal.com. But I have a little password collector file, and people type in their information, just updates the information that I just typed to my little pass collector file. That's a pretty easy thing to do. I'm not going to get into all of the technical code behind how to make that work because it'll just bore everyone watching this webinar and it will take too much time. But this is not a technical webinar. But the point is, this could have been some unsuspecting person's information that was just stolen. And that's a problem. That is why we care about security awareness. And this is how most companies get hacked. Now, I didn't even show you the scariest part. Not only did it take me back to paypal.com, but now if I click on try again, it brings me back to the login. And let's say that I did use the login that looks identical, and notice it no longer says PayPal anymore. And that's why I also changed it to PayPal so that you can see the direct comparison that, without something to make it obvious that you're not on the wrong, like that you're not on the right website, it can be very confusing. And it can be very easy to just absentmindedly just type in some information. The email looked legitimate. It said something about logging in for an emergency, or logging in to change some information like change of address, or who knows. Phishing attacks can be sneaky sometimes. But all I really need is to fool even 1% of people who I try to get to click on one of these emails if I were a phisher. So for example, let's say that I collect somewhere in the realm of 100,000 emails, or you can actually on the dark net, I guess on the dark web, you can actually buy emails. So people steal and collect and sell emails. And so if I was a person who's one of those criminal types, and I just want to buy some emails, get a list of like 100,000 people, maybe 1 million emails, maybe half of them are not even legitimate, but who cares, as long as a lot of them are legitimate. So you get a million email accounts, and then you take the email, I'll pull up that email again, and you send it out to that list of 1 million emails. I only need 1% of even 1 million, which is like 10,000 people, 10,000 email accounts that actually happened to click on this and respond. And the actual numbers are, and I'll show you some more of that information, but more than 1% of people are actually clicking on these links. And so that's tens of thousands of people being fooled, and this is on a daily basis. Hundreds of thousands of people being fooled, especially if there are millions of attacks, and each of those attacks are, targeting millions of people. That's potentially millions of people who are typing in the wrong information and sending their credentials and information over to the wrong people, which is how companies like Equifax got hacked. And even though Equifax was, I want to say, SQL injection that caused that attack, the URL still doesn't look right. Someone at some point was trying to go to Equifax, I believe employees and whatnot. The website that looked legitimate, just like what we're looking at here, seemed very inviting, and then they sent the information that the people needed. And then, of course, someone attacked Equifax again after the initial attack just to prove a point. Ended up getting attacked multiple times. And Equifax still ended up getting hacked the second time. So companies are easier to breach, especially if they're very big companies, than it might seem. We might think that cybersecurity is, they have millions of dollars and they can afford to have secure logins and good security, all this stuff. And while that is true, it still takes one mistake, especially let's say that companies like Sony get attacked for, every single year. One good breach in a 5-year span is a multi-million-dollar impact. And if there's a multi-million-dollar impact, someone really doesn't care if they only manage to get the information from one person in a 3 to 5 year span, because they're probably stealing information from companies other than Sony while they're at it too. And it really only takes one event to have a multi-million-dollar impact, which is the problem, and that's terrifying. So, if you see these emails, something else to be aware of is in the to field, if you just see a name in the to field, you can always hover the mouse over it to see what the email account is. So I just typed email at email.com. But like, let's say that it said to, and someone set the name to show up as PayPal, where you're not seeing an email address, you're just seeing PayPal. So I'm going to teach you the steps to avoiding getting phished in the first place. So once again, step number one, you just want to make sure that it's from a legitimate email address by hovering the mouse over the name, even if it says, PayPal for a fake PayPal phishing attack. If that's not an email from PayPal, then you need to understand that that's probably a phishing attempt, and you should probably avoid whatever is going on with that email. And if you're working for a company, then probably report that to your IT team and definitely flag that email as junk. Just avoid getting hacked by going down and clicking on the link. As you can see, you can also hover the mouse over the link to see where that link takes you. Now, this is an Outlook. Not all email management tools are the same, but as you can see, you can sit here and you can log in. I'm going to let you look at that for just a second before I move the mouse here. I just move the mouse over it and let it hover. And you can see what the website is. So this is just some standard stuff. So even if you open the email, don't panic yet. Just don't click on any of the links, at least. At least don't click on any of the links. Hover your mouse over things before you just start clicking away. If you do click on the link, say that you do end up on PayPal, then look at the URL. And also, a lot of phishing attempts are rather lazy because, for the most part, people will log into things that look about right. This doesn't even say PayPal, and someone would log into this. They might not even pay attention to the fact that this says, I see you, and you delete that and it says, I'm stealing your info. Some people just don't pay attention to details, and if it looks about right, people will just type away and not even give it a second thought. Start by looking at the URL. Look at small defects on the website, things that don't seem right. Is the information down here missing? Little attention to details. And if you're really concerned, then just go to the actual website and just, go type paypal.com. Once again, this is not unique to PayPal. I'm just picking on PayPal because it's one of who knows how many unlimited websites that have logins. So many websites have logins. Like, this is how we get into our online banking. This is how we get into our business accounts. This is how we log into our company VPNs. And yes, this is how we log into our company VPNs, some of our companies. So phishing attacks can get VPN information, and there are other things other than email phishing that can spoof a website or a login page like this as well. There's just so many ways to steal information that it's dizzying. Equifax didn't even need to get a phish attack, because if you have, say, like a phish or a SQL injection, then when you go to, say, paypal.com, it'll reroute whoever's trying to go to that website to the wrong website. And then that is up to the company themselves to correct that. But email phishing isn't something that, say, your company's cybersecurity team can go and correct. As to where, like, if the website itself genuinely gets hacked and going to paypal.com goes to one of these fake fronts, like what I just showed you, then you can worry. So anyways, that is how simple it is to build a phishing attack. And mind you, that didn't even take that long. I think I spent 30 minutes between explaining what's going on and showing you how quick it was for me to throw everything together. It's mostly copy and paste. You just copy and paste a whole bunch of things. Bam, you're ready to go and steal 10,000 credentials. Wonderful. And for those of you without a conscience and those who don't feel bad for stealing, Shame on you. That's why people like me have jobs, to stop that stuff. So let's go back to our slides. Now that you know why phishing attacks are so easy to miss. So let's go back to where we were in the slides. All right, understand this. This is one of many ways to phish. Many. I say this because it's, once again, the Equifax thing. I know I keep picking on Equifax because they were in the news. It was a big deal. So many companies got hacked. It's like companies like TJ Maxx. Sony's been hacked multiple times. Big companies generally get hacked at some point. A lot of companies don't end up in the news, and they've been hacked too. New York Times gets hacked all the time, so it seems. At least recently, they've been hacked a number of times. And it's just a thing that happens. And instead of, trying to gather bank accounts, someone might want your company VPN access. This is just the beginning. InfoSec's research shows on average per attack, 29% of people open phishing emails. 7.3% click on the links. And then we have 1.2 million attacks per year. And if every single attack is targeting millions of people, think about it. Millions of attacks targeting millions of people every single year, which means millions of people are getting attacked every single day, which means it's just, the math is ridiculous. So even if you are the one who's not clicking on the wrong thing, if you're the company who doesn't want your company's sensitive information out there, this is why it's important that your team knows how to not be that one person. If you're a company of 100 people, it only takes one person to click on the wrong thing in a 3-year span for massive damage to be done. Massive damage. And I've done disaster recovery for so many different companies. While certain things can't be helped, like I've done disaster recovery for floods and fires and things, but, if there's something like a phishing attack, someone clicked on the wrong link, that's avoidable. It's much more avoidable. So who's been breached? Uber, Verizon. I keep talking about Equifax. I sound like a broken record. On average, companies take 206 days to detect a data breach. Let that set in. Let that settle in for just a moment. 206 days. Someone has been sitting in your company, tapped into your infrastructure, stealing information from your business for 206 days. Now, this is an average, which means that some companies, and let me give you a name, TJ Maxx, someone had access to TJ Maxx for 7 years before the breach was discovered. And after the forensics analysis, we found out it went all the way back to 7 years. 206 days is an average. And so many times by the time a breach ends up in the news, people have already been, Equifax had already been breached for at least a year. And just look at the numbers. It's devastating. So this is something that once again is avoidable unless you don't do anything about it, because it only takes one wrong click. One wrong click from the right person at some given point in time. It could be tomorrow, it could be next year. It really doesn't matter. Someone who's trying to attack your company, they don't need to get your information today. They'll spend a year on it. They'll spend a year just sitting to wait to get the big bucks if you're a big enough company, or even if you're not that big of a company. Like most companies at least have a couple $1 million sitting around for payroll, and if they can get the right banking information and try to route some stuff, sometimes they might take financial information. Now, most hackers also don't want to be noticed, and so if they can find other ways to monetize off of your business by either selling information to others from your business or something else. Let's just look at some of these other numbers. 14.5 billion spam emails are sent a day. 14.5 billion, and that's spam emails, not necessarily all phishing. Spam earns senders an average of $7,000 per day. So you might sit there and ask yourself, why do I get all this spam all the time? Because they make money. You get all that spam because they're just making money. To them, they're like, this is how I make my living. This is how I eat. I just send out a bunch of emails and go to bed at night and then send another email tomorrow. Wonderful. Now, great. I just made $7,000. I don't even know if I want to work tomorrow. This is why people do it. $7,000 per day. Businesses, a lot of businesses wish they could make that much money. 3 out of 4 companies fall victim to malicious phishing attacks. Spam costs businesses over $20 billion per year since 2012, and those numbers have drastically increased. Over $20 billion a year. This can all be avoided, legitimately. Cybersecurity begins with everyone at your company. Security awareness prevents major damage, as you can see per the information we've been talking about in this webinar. In order to have true cybersecurity, it starts with security awareness training. You can have the best cybersecurity team or IT security team in the world, but they're going to be overworked, overtaxed, overwhelmed, and have no idea why life is so awful if you don't have a security awareness training program, because this is where the vast majority of issues start. That's that 90 percentile of breaches start because of a lack of security awareness training. Let me say that again. That 90 percentile, over 90% of breaches occur because of a lack of security awareness training. So then that brings us to having a team that handles your cyber threats, and this is called Blue Team. In the cybersecurity world, we refer to cybersecurity professionals in 2 categories: Blue Team and Red Team for those of you outside of the cyberspace. Don't necessarily work in that realm. But for those who are trying to build a blue team, which is your reactive team, your team of soldiers, the people who man the walls and take down the threats, you want to be reactive in order to be truly secure. And in order to be reactive, you have to have a strong blue team. And the better your cybersecurity team, when those breaches do happen, because even if you have a security awareness training program, you're going to have fewer issues at your company by a significant margin. Things like you need antivirus, that stops a lot of avoidable issues. Then you add security awareness training, that stops a whole lot more of avoidable issues, very avoidable issues that might cost your company millions. And then brings us down to something's still going to get through. This is just the way it is. If there's a really advanced attack, or that just one day someone was just really sleepy, which could even be you, and you clicked on the wrong thing at 3 a.m. working those long days. I know how you people work. I've done it too. Some of you sleep at night, so I do know that, and good for you if you do. But you need a blue team in order to mitigate some of that. Security awareness in 2019 is like antivirus in 2001. It's a necessity. Yes, you need antivirus. I am not discrediting antivirus. It's just not enough in this day and age. It's not enough. As a matter of fact, antivirus is almost like an expectation. It's even built into Windows now, finally. So even if you don't buy a Windows antivirus, then there's a basic one that comes on Windows, because antivirus is one of the most successful ways of stopping the majority of very avoidable issues. And then, once again, security awareness. Look at the URL. Don't click on the wrong link. Don't type in your email into strange websites. Look for strange defects when you're trying to type in your credentials. Make sure you're going to trusted websites and looking at trusted sources. It's a necessity.